It is just 10 days before Tanzanians go to the polls to elect a president and members of parliament. And of course the other seats that have to be filled in a general election. This is a general election like no other seen in Tanzania. In its long history, Tanzania has seen nothing like this. And by the way, in East Africa, Tanzania has the longest political history, because it gained its independence on 9th December 1961. Uganda 1962, Kenya December 1963. On this show, we shall attempt to understand very intimately exactly what the situation is as the country goes to the polls and why these polls are very unique. But let me start by making my position very clear. Regulars on this channel will know that I started off as a harsh critic of CCM's President John Pombe Magufuli. And then suddenly I turned into an admirer and a big supporter of President John Pombe Magufuli. But that will not stop me from giving you today a very balanced, non-partisan analysis of the Tanzanian polls. Folks, I will give you the truth and nothing but the truth, despite my personal views, which are that Tanzanians should give incumbent President John Pombe Magufuli another 5 years, and have my good reasons for holding these views. And please allow me to explain. And to make it even clearer, let me give you an illustration from soccer. You're the coach of a soccer team that is involved in a final. And of course you must win. And you have to do everything in your power to win. But for you to win, you have to deal with the opposing striker, very dangerous player, who scores at will. And you have a player, a defender, who nobody likes. The fans don't like him, the rest of the players don't like him. But he gets the job done. A very simple job. He's an expert, a guru at man-to-man marking. The decision you have to make as a coach, is clear. Field this player so that he sticks to that dangerous strike of the opposing team, and marks him out of the game. And so the game starts. The game is a very scrappy affair. It's not entertaining at all. Those who paid to watch an entertaining final are very disappointed. And late in the second half, this unpopular player fielded goes overboard, and is sent off. Is given a red card for a very rough tackle on this dangerous striker. In fact, as a result of that tackle, that opposing striker is injured and is carried off the pitch. But at the end of 90 minutes, you've won. Slim win, 1-0. But you've won the cup. You have accomplished the mission. Not everybody will realize that that player people don't like is the one who won the game for your team. But it doesn't matter. You won. Now, the matters we're dealing with here are much more important than a soccer game. Indeed, it is much more serious, because you're dealing with people's livelihoods, people's lives, people's future, and indeed the future of their children. So it's very serious. In the last few months, most of the world has witnessed something called a lockdown as a result of the virus. Tanzanians, of course, have got no idea what that is, even as indications on the ground in neighboring Kenya are telling us that Kenya may go back to another lockdown. President Magufuli has stood out as an African leader who can think independently and make decisions with the welfare of his people topmost on his mind. And the future we are going into is extremely dangerous. And the Tanzanian President Magufuli, has proved with his actions and decisions that he is brave enough to avert the very huge danger lingering, looming over the African continent and over Tanzania. A win for Magufuli will be a win for the future of Tanzania. It will also be a win for the future of Africa. Now, those are my personal views. But they will not stop me from telling you the truth about what is happening on the ground in Tanzania as we speak. And my views will not stop me from telling you about the huge blunders the CCM party has done that has resulted into the current situation where the party is in crisis. And indeed, the genuine re-election of President Magufuli is very much in doubt. So, let's get this show on the road. And I will start with another illustration that will be able to tell us very clearly why what is happening in Tanzania is happening. Now, I know many on this channel did not grow up in a rural area. Neither did I. But I love rural life, and I look for every opportunity to be in the countryside. I don't like big cities and big towns. Now, have you ever observed how goats behave when you let them out in the morning? Especially the young goats. They're usually hyper. They're jumping all over the place. They're delighted to be free at last. They behave as if they're so delighted they cannot even believe their freedom. That is precisely what a vast majority of Tanzanian voters are going through right now. You see, Tanzanians have never experienced fear before. They have never experienced fear of a draconian government. In Tanzania, people have been arrested just for posting an old photograph of the president. Others have gotten into trouble just for expressing doubt at the academic qualifications of President John Pombe Magufuli. Tanzanians, by their very nature, love to talk and criticize and exhale politically. Since 2015, that has been difficult. And then all of a sudden, in this kind of environment, you can go to a long meeting that is criticizing John Pombe Magufuli, talking about the things and popular things the president has done in Tanzania since 2015. And clearly, from my observation, it seems Tanzanians can't get enough of that. And that is why, if you live in Tanzania and you've attended some of this meeting, you will see people walking away from the president's campaign meetings. A CCM campaign meeting starts with a musician, a popular artist, who draws in the crowds. But as soon as the artist has finished, and the speeches start, and the president stands up to address the people, crowds of people start walking away. In sharp contrast, his challenger, Chadema's presidential candidate, Tundu Lissu, doesn't have the same problems. He has no problem getting a huge crowd. He doesn't need popular musicians or trucks to go around picking people to come for his meeting. He just needs to stop somewhere, and a huge crowd will gather and hang on his every word. In a recent rally in Mwanza, Tanzania, the crowds that were attracted to come and listen to Lissu were unprecedented and very enthusiastic at that. And they reminded me of Kenya in 1992, when the opposition Ford held their first political rally at the Kamkunji grounds here in Nairobi. The sheer excitement in the air and anticipation of people coming to a meeting that will criticize President Moi and knowing very well that they'll not end up getting arrested or in trouble. That excitement was in the air. And that is precisely what is taking place right across the country in Tanzania. You know, in management, they say that execution is everything. You could have a very good idea, you could have a very good plan for your company that you want to implement, but then you fail when it comes to the execution of that particular plan. And it is very sad sometimes that you'll fail because of your enthusiasm, your drive to implement, and then you end up ignoring a few critical factors that you should have taken into consideration. President Magufuli has done a lot of very good things for the nation called Tanzania. He has taken on corruption head on. So much so that if you ask the opposition to criticize Magufuli for corruption, they will not tell you about huge funds being embezzled, like is the case in Kenya. Instead, they'll tell you about an airfield constructed at the president's village in Chato, President Magufuli's village, home village. And they will give you one or two other stories of corruption, that if you're a Kenyan, you'll just shake your head and tell Tanzanians you don't know what corruption is. And so if anybody is to be truthful, President Magufuli should be given very high marks for his fight against corruption. Foreign companies have also taken advantage of the country for a very long time. Some mining companies have robbed Tanzania blind. In the past, I had the privilege of visiting an area in Tanzania called Geita, where they mine gold. And the poverty I saw shocked me to my bones. And I had to confirm several times that I was where I thought I was. You will agree with me that if you're living in an area where they're mining something as precious as gold or any other minerals, you should benefit in some way, even when you're not directly involved in that business. Better roads, infrastructure, they should reflect the activities going on in that area. But of course, as a result of the way these foreign companies have come in and robbed Tanzania blind, doing all kinds of fishy things to maximize on their profits at the expense of Tanzanians, President Magufuli has done a very good job to end all that. And he has been very brave. Indeed, in a lot of the good things he has done in the country, he has been very brave in going ahead with his policies without caring so much what people think. After all, it's for their good. In my view, this is a fatal political mistake. The way he has executed his ideas. The president is nicknamed Bulldozer. And history shows us very clearly that in politics, you will never go very far when you bulldoze, even if what you're doing is for the good of the people. That is the tragic tale of the Magufuli presidency. Many people living outside Tanzania have been very puzzled. They have wondered why there are no proper press reports coming in from Tanzania about the campaigns. We even have leading analytical newspapers like the East African, which is very well represented in Tanzania. But they are not saying anything, or they are saying very little to give people a clear picture of exactly what is unfolding. And the reason for that is simple. President Magufuli's government has clamped down on the press. There is no press freedom in Tanzania. When you clamp down on the press, one of the things that happens is that even the good things you're doing, if they're written about in that press or talked about in broadcast press, people will not believe them. There are many stories that the East African correspondents in Tanzania cannot dare write, and the editors cannot dare print. Otherwise, the next day, their newspaper will be shut down. They'll be out of business. Over the years, Tanzania has had more press freedom than Kenya. That has now vanished into thin air. And in my view, that has also backfired very badly on CCM and its presidential candidate. Because when somebody clamps down on the press, the first question people start to ask is, what is the government hiding? What don't they want the people to know? Now I can understand the reason why President Magufuli's government decided to clamp down on the press. I can understand. Because what they were going to do, most of their policies, were bound to be very unpopular with very powerful people, foreign companies with contacts in the press within the country. Still, in my view, they would have found another way of dealing with that problem, because destroying press freedom in Tanzania was a very serious blunder. But even more serious was the clampdown on anybody opposed to what the government was doing. Anybody who wanted to air any views that were critical of the government's policies were dealt with very harshly. I believe I've covered this in great detail in my earlier videos on President John Pombe Magufuli. Over 400 people, Tanzanians, have vanished without trace or have ended up dead. Such a reign of terror may not have had such a big impact in a country like Kenya, that is used to it. But in a country like Tanzania, it has had a colossal impact. And these victims of the regime have relatives, they have friends, they have extended family members, etc., etc. And you can be sure that none of those would want to support any CCM candidate. And one of these victims of the terror of the Magufuli government have come back to haunt the CCM campaign very badly. Tundu Lissu, the Chadema presidential candidate, ended up with 16 bullets in his body in 2017 in what was clearly an attempted assassination. And politically, that gives candidate Lissu, a very powerful weapon in the eyes of voters. There is nothing more powerful than a sympathy vote. And we have seen it many times in Kenya. Somebody passes on, a relative vies for that position, maybe a son or a wife or a brother. They have no problem. They sail through the landslide win. Sympathy in elective politics, I can't think of anything more powerful than that. And to make the government look even more guilty, no investigations have been carried out since 2017. No suspects have been arrested. Now, I disagree with the Chadema presidential candidate, Tundu Lissu, when he says that what happened to him is unprecedented in Tanzania. Actually, that's not true. On 30th June 1996, General Imran Kombe, who had just completed a 10-year term as the chief spy in Tanzania, heading Usalama wa Taifa, in English the Tanzania Intelligence and Security Services, passed on in a hail of bullets close to Moshi. The policeman who fired at him, even after he lifted his hands in surrender, came out of the vehicle and lifted his hands in surrender, claimed that they had mistaken the vehicle. There's a well-known carjacker who had stolen a similar vehicle, and they assumed it was him, and that's why they opened fire. And that story has a super fascinating end, because the two policemen who fired those shots were convicted of murder and sentenced to hang. And strangely enough, they were kept alive all through the years until 2011, when President Jakaya Kikwete, serving his second and last term, used the powers of his office to give them a presidential pardon. And that one, you have to close observers, deepened the mystery even further. You see, President Kikwete worked for many years in the Usalama wa Taifa, TIS, in the military intelligence arm of the organization, which tells you he knew something that most Tanzanians did not know. And to date, many Tanzanians who are familiar with this story believed that the death of General Pombe was a state-sanctioned assassination. It is said that General Pombe had something to do with yet another death which shocked the Tanzanian nation in 1984. And of course, I'm talking about the death of former Prime Minister Edward Moringe Sokoine. Sokoine passed on in a road accident on the road between Dodoma and Dar es Salaam. And this happened at a very interesting time politically in Tanzania. You see, President Nyerere had indicated that he was going to retire. So there was a succession war going on over who will succeed him. And Sokoine was a clear favorite of President Nyerere to take over from him. It is said, shortly before Sokoine's fatal accident, somebody redeployed his bodyguards away from Bwana Sokoine. And the person heading the intelligence services at that time was Imran Kombe, General Kombe. And there were indications that the order to redeploy those bodyguards came from him, indicating that he may have had something to do with the death of Sokoine, and that it was not an ordinary road accident. It was actually an assassination. Bottom line, even in a peaceful country like Tanzania, bullets have been used in the past to sort out political problems, if I can put it like that, for some people. It is very sad in Africa how intelligence services, which are supposed to take care of the security of the state, start getting involved in partisan politics. The intelligence services in Tanzania were key in the successful election of President Magufuli in 2015. And it is clear they will again play a key role in deciding who wins the presidency on October 28th, 2020. Although this time, they're going to have a huge challenge in their hands. Because the truth is, the CCM party is in such serious trouble, more trouble than they have ever faced since the inception, as a dominating political party in Tanzanian politics. There are some cases where it becomes impossible to rig a presidential election. And this is the case where the candidate you want to rig out to declare defeated when he has actually won. The problem comes about when that candidate has a landslide victory. If the candidate you want to rig out has a lead of, say, even 20%, it is still viable to fiddle with the votes. But if they have any lead higher than that, it becomes increasingly tricky to do that funny business, which incidentally is not funny at all. And so, the very important question any political analyst who wants to predict the results must ask is, how big is Tundu Lissu's lead over the incumbent? And in my view, that is an extremely difficult question to answer. Simply because gathering information in Tanzania is a very difficult task. Yeah, partly because of the clampdown on the press and even on research organizations in the country, by the John Pombe Magufuli administration. I shall of course continue my coverage of the Tanzanian elections in the few days remaining before the polls, about 10 days. But I take this opportunity to appeal to all those prayer warriors in Tanzania to step up their prayers for the nation. And Kenyans who love this neighbor of ours, Tanzania, should do the same, including myself. We need to pray very hard for peace in Tanzania, and more importantly, that God's will may be fulfilled in this nation. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.